Full disclosure, folks, I got this topic from the one and only Ken McElroy. Ken McElroy's putting out a lot of great content recently. And one of the ones that we're going to have this conversation with Jonathan Twomley is about how to escape the rat race. Yes, folks, how to leave the your 9 to 5 behind you for good in a safe manner. Jonathan, undoubtedly, you've had conversations with full-time employees. Want to talk to you about how the heck do they leave their job behind? So why don't we break it down? What are the steps for someone to successfully leave their 9 to 5 behind?
I mean, listen, there are a number of different ways that you can do this with commercial real estate. And it's funny you brought this up because I was literally thinking about this on my way to work this morning. So I would say there are two different ways to do it. There's the self-funded way and there is the syndication way.
Okay.
So self-funded way with multifamily, here's what I would advise you to do. I would advise, and I would say, well, when I say self-funded, let me say maybe sort of briefly syndicating, but then getting out of the syndication game quickly, right? So what I would suggest that people do, and definitely keep your 9 to 5 while you're working on this project because listen, think about your 9 to 5 as like this amazing funding source. Like they're just someone just handing you money every 2 weeks, right? They just, here's some money, here's some more money, here's some more money, right? And if you start socking that away into real estate, you will eventually become financially free.
Yeah.
But you can accelerate this process in a couple of ways. So one way, what I call the self-funded way, if you have enough funds on your own to go find a small commercial property, like a 5-unit or a 10-unit property that needs a little bit of work, right? So so I would look for a couple of things. Start out with a neighborhood that you like, that you're comfortable with, right? That you know pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And preferably one with good schools. Because like the home run case is going to be kind of an undervalued property in a good school district. Because if it's in a good school district, it is always going to attract the right kind of tenants, right?
Yep.
So, and you will attract a kind of tenant that values education, which kind of puts them in a different bracket than typical tenants. Typically, they're there because they have children. They're concerned about their children. So these are people who will scrape together the rent money to pay you to make sure that their kids can stay in that school, right? So identify a couple of neighborhoods that you like and get to know those neighborhoods well. And most importantly, get to know what the prevailing rents are in those neighborhoods, right? So when you start looking at properties, you can look for properties specifically where the rents are substantially below where the prevailing rents are. That way, you're buying like an instant. You're going to be buying below the market value for that property, right? Because the property in commercial the price is based on your NOI, right? Your price is based on your NOI times the cap rate, which gives you the value. So, if let's just say these apartments are renting for $300 less than everything else in the neighborhood, well, you can instantly raise the rents $300 and you've got instant profit there. You'll instantly raise the value of that property. And I'll just do a quick calculation here. Let's just say that, just to illustrate the point, if you raise rents by $300, typically it's all dropping to the bottom line, 100%. Right. Okay. So let's just say you've got a 5-unit, you raise the rents by $300. That's an additional $18,000 of revenue per year that drops to your bottom line.
Yep.
Now, if you put a cap rate on that, right, you divide that by, let's just be conservative and say it's a 7 cap. What have you done? You've added $257,000 of value to your apartment.
Wow.
Right, to that building that you bought. Mm-hmm. And the home run case is that you don't even have to do anything to the apartment. Sometimes a lot of people get really worked up about value add and upgrading and all this kind of stuff. There are lots of cases where in its current state, it's got below market rents and you don't need to do anything to it, right? That's kind of like the home run case and what you can look for to start your journey on this process. Right now, Now, obviously, there may be situations where you need to put in $5,000 per unit, right? Or what
Yeah.
have you, right? Just to do some upgrades. It's always a good idea. And especially I start with the exteriors. That actually matters more than the
Oh, for sure.
interiors.
This does.
Um,
You got to get
so
people to stop by.
that's
That's
right. You
exactly right.
want people to pass by and think, oh, that's a nice place to live, right? Or when they
Definitely.
when they see the listing on Craigslist or wherever, and they walk up to the front door, they don't turn around and walk away
Yep.
because it looks like it's a nice place to live, right?
Mhm.
So, and then you can obviously, once you start making money, you can start reinvesting in the units, upgrade them, and you get even more rent for them. Okay, so that's step one, right? Step two is either you refinance, now you've created more equity, right? You've created $257,000 of value by doing that, right? Pull that equity out and buy another one and do the same thing.
Yeah.
Or sell it and 1031 into a bigger one and do this. And within, if you do that diligently, within a couple of years, you can create, do one of those a year, that'll make you financially free in 5 years.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
And
Yep.
and then just sort of the last point, if you don't have the funds to do it yourself, go find a couple of people who do, form a partnership with them. You are able to pay yourself, just to make things really simple. If you're doing all the work, it is very easy to, let's just say there's 3 of you, right?
Mhm.
Those guys put up all the money, you do all the work. It is completely acceptable for you to take, 30% of the profits and give them the other 70, right?
Yep.
And that's the way it works. When you sell the property, you pay them their money back and you give them
Mhm.
70% and you take 30. That's just very standard, and nobody would really complain about that if you make them money, right?
Mhm.
So and so what you can do in that case then is, if you can't afford to do this on your own, well, you just do the same thing, but you find a couple of people to put up the money. You say, I'm going to give you 70 or 75% of the profits or whatever it is. And then when you sell, that now you've got your
Yeah.
initial
Seed
down
capital.
payment on the next one.
Yeah.
You've got your seed capital for the next one, and then you start the process. So that's one way. I don't know if you want to take a break
No,
before I
yeah,
get.
I think there's a lot in that. Again, I think when you talk about your area of commercial real estate, 5 and above, it really is it's a process, right? Find undervalued properties, under rented. Um, if you can structure a deal, maybe get some seller carry, whatever, right? Because you could even structure these deals where you don't have to come in with 35% down,
No, you
right? You
don't.
can, yeah,
Yeah.
you can, the creative, a lot of people talk creative financing with single family. Guys, you don't realize
Oh,
commercial mom and pop they expect to carry
yeah.
a
I
part
mean,
of the sale.
listen, on the last hotel deal I did, we could not get any kind of bank financing on
Yep,
that hotel deal
I
because
remember.
it just was just not possible, right? I
It
mean,
was
in
it
that
was the wrong
environment.
time. Sometimes lending windows open, sometimes lending windows
Yeah.
closed.
And that, and on a heavy value add like that, it's very difficult anyway, right?
Yep.
So we got seller financing. We got a great seller financing deal on that. And, so a lot of, if you've got a property, look, I mean, these small multifamily deals can be perfect for seller financing
Yeah.
for a couple of reasons. And here's a value add that nobody ever talks about. This is like a real subtle value add, but it's huge. You go buy a property that where the owner is like running all his personal expenses through the property, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have any financials. He just has like his whatever schedule it is
Mhm.
for his taxes,
Schedule
right?
E. Yeah,
Yeah. You buy that that's a non-financeable property, right?
absolutely.
You buy that property with seller financing, and you do nothing other than hire
And
an accountant. You hire an
exactly.
accountant to do proper
To
books,
really
and
run the business.
yeah,
Yeah.
not even to run, just to
To
have
run the
proper
run the building.
books,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now
A
you have a
financeable building.
financeable building, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You run that property for 1 year, you have 1 year of proper financials. Now you can go get a bank loan, right? And you've done that costs you what, like a couple $1,000s? I mean,
Yeah.
that is with putting zero capex in, right? You spend a couple $1,000s a year on a proper bookkeeper and a real accountant.
Hmm.
Now you have a financeable property, and
Yeah.
you've created a ton of value just by doing that. So, um, and I'm just going to plug myself. Like, if you guys sign up for my program, this is what I teach. Like, you could talk to me every month about this,
Yeah.
like, and I could actually teach you how to do this. So, you know, Apartment Investors Club is the place to go. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, seller financing, I love it. I'm a huge fan now because of my last deal, and you can absolutely do this with these small commercial properties.
Yeah, so let's talk about a little bit about the last deal, right? You found a value add boutique hotel. These are
Yeah.
my words. Correct me if they're wrong. You tried to get the deal done the traditional route, right? Probably putting 35 up to 40% down. Went to a lot. I remember you were going to multiple banks. Very, I'll call it stress. Maybe you weren't stressed, but you were working hard to get it financed. Had to get a couple of extensions from the
Yep.
seller, and you tried to hit seller financing once, and as I recall, the brother poo-pooed it. You tried to get another bank and then said, "Hey, dude, I can't finance this building. Either you finance it or not." And that was probably 4 months, maybe 5 months in total
Yeah.
duration, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that seller had made it very clear from the start that they didn't want to do seller financing because they'd had a bad experience with it back in the 1990s, right?
Mm.
So, um, their their family business was originally, it's very typical of hotels, as I found, started out as a restaurant, and their family had a successful restaurant, and then they built a hotel next to the restaurant, and then later on they sold the restaurant. They
Hmm.
sold the restaurant with seller financing to a developer who wound up defaulting and then handing it back to them in worse condition than it was
Oh, that's
when
horrible.
when
Yeah.
when they sold it, so that they were like burned, didn't want to do
Yep.
seller financing ever again. So they told me up front, no seller financing. And in the beginning, I was like, fine, I'm not
Yeah.
really doing
No,
seller financing. And
yeah, I'm cool. No big deal. Yep.
we're gonna get bank financing, everything's good. But when we couldn't get bank financing and we just went, extension after extension after extension, trying to find a bank who would play ball with us, uh, then, and even their bank, even the bank that they did their banking with, would
Mm.
not give us a loan on the property.
Yeah.
So, because it wasn't stabilized, right? And
Yep.
so, and they had bad financials and all the same stuff is the same story. So finally they did come around, and, now
At some
we're
point, they were more interested in getting out than
well, yeah,
remembering
that
the
was the
bad
thing.
experience.
They wanted to get out, and that's the thing. When you find a seller, and if you see a property with some deferred maintenance, and you see a property that hasn't been upgraded for a while, you know that that's a seller that, you know they're probably looking to get out of that deal, right? So, um, but it's a great opportunity for you to come in. I mean, look, if you find the right deal, you can probably get the whole thing financed with a hard money loan, right?
Mhm.
That, where you get renovation costs
Yep.
as well, right?
Yeah.
So
Construction loan or whatever, a couple of
yeah,
draws. Yep.
yeah. I mean, you get a hard money loan for 80% of the purchase price and 100% of the renovation costs, right?
Yeah.
And
Done.
done and done, right? And that is a way to start building some wealth really quickly. So, but again, the keys are to understand your market. I mean, just like what you teach, Michael, understand your market, know what the prevailing rents are, know when you found a deal, right? And what the deal is really worth, right? And
Yep.
the way to calculate it, unlike with single family where it's comps, with multifamily, it's all about, it's all about the NOI, right?
Yeah,
So
I loved your example, right? My first commercial building, I still own it. It was on Vassar, 5 units, and you take rents up 300 times fives, 1,500 times 12s, 18 grand. You assume that goes to the bottom line, seven cap, over 200 grand in value. That's a real thing.
yeah.
That really happens.
And that is that is in 1 year, right?
Yeah,
Your rent roll is
every
going to turn your rent roll is going to turn every 12 months, right? You can up if it's a hot market and you're really below rents,
yeah,
oftentimes what you'll find too is that people will say, yeah, I know this is below market, and I'm willing to pay the market rent because I don't want to move. Like I know I'm getting a steal on this apartment, and I'm
yeah,
perfectly happy to pay the real freight on
yeah.
it. And
Especially if you're at a good school district and they've got
yeah,
kids, right? I mean, they're that's why they're there, right?
yeah,
Is
yeah.
for the kids. So
And then
yeah,
if they do move out, then you upgrade the apartment, right?
yeah,
So, right,
exactly.
and then you can probably charge even more rent. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So at the end of the day, I think commercial real estate, as Ken McElroy highlights, as you've just highlighted for us, really offers someone the ability, in a very short duration. I'll call 5 to 10 years a short duration to really earn financial freedom. And I loved how you start. You're basically like, dude, keep your job. Look at your
yeah,
job as a key. Somebody's handing you money every couple of weeks. Learn, get skilled up. But at the end of the day, it is possible.
And I
It
do
just
have
takes
another
time
method.
and focus. Sure.
Yeah. And I do have another method for you. So
Perfect.
this is the other method where you don't even need to own the real estate. Okay. So what you do here is you basically hook up with someone like me who's doing syndications and you
Mhm.
raise money for me, right? And what
Okay.
happens there is you go to your colleagues, like, so you hook up with me, you go to your colleagues and you say, hey, look, I'm raising money for this guy, Jonathan Twombly, who's an experienced, multifamily and hotel investor. We have this project, and you bring money to the deal. And if you do that, then you get a couple of things. You get part of the acquisition fee, which it's typically like 3% of whatever you raise. Let's say you raise $1 million for a deal, it's $30,000 payoff when we close, and then you get a part of the GP interest, which means you're going to get a percentage of the deal. It could be 3%, 5%, whatever. But you just start doing that, and you don't even have to quit your job. You just keep on doing this on the side until you start building up wealth that way. And I know a lot of people who have basically become sort of full-time capital raisers
Hmm.
and left their jobs as a result of like their capital raising business. So that's another way to do it that involves you not having any money. Oftentimes people will want to know, are you investing in the deal yourself?
Right.
Right. And so you say, well, yeah, I'm investing in the deal too. Or maybe you say, look, I want to, but I just don't have, I'm not liquid right
Right.
now. Usually
Right.
people are fine with that. So, um, but that's another way to skin this cat, and then you're not actually involved in the operations of the deal at all. There are some legal technicalities in this kind of business, so you do have to be careful of that. I mean, again, I teach that sort of stuff too, but that is another way that you can obtain financial freedom through commercial real
Hmm.
estate, and it doesn't involve you having to look for the deals, manage the deals, be involved in all of that sort of work. It just involves you going and talking to people that you know about whether they'd like to invest.
There you go. Lots of ways to do this, lots of ways to get in the game. It is a process, it is time, and it's not get rich quick, but it's get rich for sure. One of the things that I like to talk about is getting buy and hold real estate is not sexy, but getting wealthy is. This is just one of the ways to do it. Jonathan, where can people find you?
Yeah, well, come and follow me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm hanging out these days. I'm there actively commenting and posting pretty much every day. And we're having some really great conversations, and it's a great place for you to learn and build a relationship with me if that's what you'd like to do.
Very cool. Thank you, Jonathan. Take care.
Absolutely.